Today we're covering Inuyashiki, and let's go! Inuyashiki is a seinen anime from 2017. It is a mix of science fiction, body horror, and superhero story. It was created by Hiroya Oku, creator of Gantz, well known for his propensity to fill his stories with violence and other explicit content. But what is Inuyashiki all about? Well, Inuyashiki starts with Inuyashiki. He is an elderly salaryman. He is honorable and a good person, but he is, as it's often the case, old and weak. His family regards him as a weakling, and they are quick to show their disregard and animosity towards him. So much so that when Inuyashiki finds out he is terminally ill, he doubts if anyone from his family would even bat an eye. And he is absolutely correct. His family, as depicted, doesn't care for Inuyashiki in the slightest, and perceive him as a weakling and a loser. The way they treat him is truly heartbreaking and unjust. Broken by the news of his illness, as well with the fact that his family hates him, he goes off on a stroll in the park. There he dies on the spot. Aliens seem to have crash-landed on Earth by accident, and they landed in the park where Inuyashiki is. Point of view changes to the aliens, and they debate what to do now, since they killed two innocents with their landing. Two innocents? Yes, there was someone else there in the park aside from Inuyashiki, but we will cover that a bit later. Aliens decide to resurrect the two victims by implanting their consciousness in alien robots. That way they bring the two deceased back to life. After that, aliens pick up their stuff and leave forever. So much for aliens. The plot begins to thicken when we understand what kind of robots they used. They are top-of-the-line alien weapons, nigh indestructible, able of flight, shooting bullets and rockets, manipulating technology, and God knows what else. Our protagonist basically becomes a robotic superhero. Oh yeah, the robots can also heal any disease known to man. I guess being a superhero was not enough, we had to make him resemble Jesus. But okay. Inuyashiki starts to use his powers as his conscience and morals dictate. He fights for justice and the protection of the weak in this cruel, cruel world. We mentioned that the author loves to insert a lot of violence in his stories, and sure enough, the world of Inuyashiki is filled to the brim with all kinds of evildoers who commit the most horrible atrocities you can think of. Luckily, such a world finally got itself a superhero. The contrast between the way Inuyashiki looks, since he looks like someone's grandpa, and his amazing abilities is very interesting to behold, as is his journey to discover his new, almost godlike abilities and get accustomed to his new body. Luckily, these powers are in the hands of an honorable man. What would have happened if those almost godlike powers ended up in the hands of a psycho? Well, that is actually the second part of this story. This anime has two main characters, Inuyashiki and Hiro. Hiro was the second person who died that night in the park, and who now also possesses a body of a killer robot, just like Inuyashiki. Hiro is a complete psychopath. Even his name is ironic. His name is Hiro, which is Japanese form of the word hero. Yet he behaves like a total villain. Hiro kills without mercy, randomly, spreading terror all around him. He is completely incapable of sympathy and empathy. What is worse, it is shown that Hiro gets accustomed to using his robot much quicker than Inuyashiki, which is to be expected since he is younger. Hiro also loves manga and anime, which is a sure sign of someone not being right in the head. We should also mention Ando, Hiro's childhood friend. He is completely different than Hiro, and as the story develops, he forms a bond with Inuyashiki and helps him realize his true potential in using his robot. Ando's whole room is plastered with Gantz anime posters, also created by Oku. I guess a little shameless self-promotion never hurt anyone. Which reminds me, if this is your first time on the channel and you're enjoying our content, don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, we have two almost omnipotent robots piloted by two vastly different types of people. As expected, they naturally fill their intended roles, where Inuyashiki becomes the hero we root for to save the world, and Hiro becomes the villain to oppose Inuyashiki. The thing that makes this story about alien killer robots believable and three-dimensional are the details. For example, when Inuyashiki takes flight for the first time, he is petrified. To calm himself, he sings a song from his favorite childhood show, Astro Man. This whole segment, where he discovers what his new body can do, is filled with details like this. And those details make characters on the screen feel alive, believable, and three-dimensional, term that critics love to use. These grounded details are absolutely necessary in a story filled with fantastical elements. In order for this type of story to be successful, we need fantastical elements as well as elements that keep us firmly grounded in reality. The true enjoyment comes in juxtaposition of these elements as the story unfolds. Scene where Inuyashiki hums his childhood song to himself left a strong impression, exactly because of the contrast between the fantastical elements, which are him flying because he is a robot, and realistic elements, which is him being scared and doing what a normal person would do to calm themselves. At this point, we've shown you all you need to know in order to decide whether this anime is for you. It is excellent, of supreme quality, and if you haven't watched it and are intrigued by ideas and themes we mentioned, be sure to give it a shot. It's only 11 episodes long, and is absolutely worth the time investment. Now, we're heading into the heavy spoiler territory, and we will discuss how this anime ends. You have been warned. Inuyashiki and Hiro continue their lives and find themselves struggling with the question which is all too common in anime, the Pinocchio syndrome. The question of what it means to truly be human, what makes someone human, and whether a chunk of metal can consider itself human when it technically is not. Every one of us strives to find things that make us feel human, things that fulfill us, make us whole, make us happy. For some, it's their job. For others, it's family, love, hobby. Since our two main characters have so vastly different personalities, they come to completely different answers to this question. Inuyashiki realizes that he is truly happy only when he helps the less fortunate, and when everyone around him is safe and happy. Kinda shonen-y, but normal and understandable, especially for someone who has been weak all their life. Inuyashiki is in every aspect, aside from his appearance, an archetype of a hero. The most important thing here is that his connection with humanity, the deeply seated human part of us all, grows stronger only when he performs good deeds and rescues people. That makes him feel alive, truly human, even though he is a hunk of metal in a killing machine. Hiro, on the other hand, is a deranged psycho. Struggling with questions, what makes me feel human, he comes to a different answer. The only time Hiro feels human is when he is killing people, spreading terror, and committing atrocities of unseen proportions. As such, Hiro falls perfectly into the villain archetype, although I would call him a monster. And again, the details shown elevate his story and make him believable. Despite being deeply disturbed, he still cares for his mother and his biological family. Later on, our villainous killer robot falls in love with a girl who gave him shelter when the police started chasing him. Falls in love is maybe a bit strong word for such a psychopath, but let's say that happens, even though he sees that girl more as his possession and not a love partner. Hiro even tries to make up for the horrors he committed, but he doesn't do it of his own volition. He does it because the girl told him to. As expected, Hiro soon realizes he doesn't care about healing the sick, and that his true life calling is to murder as much people as humanly possible. This makes for an ideal scenario for our hero archetype and villain archetype to clash. During one and only true battle between Inuyashiki and Hiro, Inuyashiki overpowers him and leaves him literally broken. The story tells us that Inuyashiki found true happiness because he used his powers for good. Eventually, his family finds out about this. His family, who neglected and disrespected him, hated him even, slowly stops doing that and start loving and respecting him. So if you haven't been paying attention, if you are sick and frail and your loved ones hold that against you, all you need to do is to become a superhero with almost godlike powers, and then your loved ones will accept you. Inuyashiki never changed in his character throughout the story. He was and remains a good and an honorable person. The only thing that changed is his ability to protect them, as he is physically stronger. This sends a brutal but very truthful message regarding how your loved ones perceive you and what they think of you. If you're weak, it doesn't matter what you think or what your intentions are. The only thing that matters is for you to get stronger, and with brute force, retake your rightful place in their eyes and demand respect. This kind of message is disgusting for me, but this is the way human beings think, especially in the case of Inuyashiki's family. Now I understand a bit more why mass murderers routinely, without exception, get loads of fan mail and marriage proposals while incarcerated. These complex messages are extremely rare in any form of media, books, movies, songs, whatever. It is something you can perhaps find in depressing Russian literature. This is the greatest strength of this story and this anime, even though on the surface it is about alien killer robots. Ideas that this story develops, messages that it sends are truly deep and powerful. The second biggest strength of this anime is amazingly inventive and creative way they depict the powers of our main characters. Hiro can hack into any computer screen, and kill anyone watching. This is where his now famous bang, bang and da 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 come from, when he is mimicking gunshots while killing people for real. Creator made Hiro kill people in this fashion for a good reason. Hiro is young, and, as all psychos, he sees his murders and crimes as some sort of a game. Exactly like when the kids on the playground point fingers at each other and exclaim, "Bang, you're dead." Again, details that hide a lot of depth. Scene where Hiro controls the aeroplanes to crash into buildings, like some sort of a conductor, are amazing and terrifying at the same time. Also, scenes where Inuyashiki rises and fires rockets all around him are epic. These scenes alone make this anime worth watching, let alone everything else. As we stated, the biggest strength of this anime is in its powerful and complex messages. The most important one probably comes in the end. Since the author set up the story where the main characters are indestructible immortal robots, conclusion of the story may only come in one way. And yes, you guessed it, a meteor. Maybe the author watched Your Name one night and decided to make his own story with two protagonists and a meteor bearing to destroy the world. So, meteor is heading for Earth, and everyone is about to die. Who will save the world? Luckily, we have omnipotent superhero robot to save the day. Inuyashiki tries his best, but the meteor is just too massive, and he realizes that he is powerless to stop it. At that moment, Hiro arrives, who is by now a mass murderer and a terrorist, wanted around the globe. Hiro decides to sacrifice his own life and self-detonate on the meteor, in order to change its trajectory enough for it to miss the Earth. He does this in order to save his girlfriend, but I think he does this because we came to the natural conclusion of the narrative. Hero self-destructs, but alas, that is not enough to save the world. In a pretty depressing twist, we find out that Inuyashiki also has to explode himself on the meteor in order to further change the trajectory and save the Earth. Realizing this, Inuyashiki accepts his fate and self-destructs, dying alone on a meteor thousands of miles away from Earth, with his explosion finally saving the world. In this conclusion, the story gives us one final complex message. We can divide it in two parts. Firstly, the message is that if there is a job that absolutely must be done, then that job absolutely must be done. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are. If something is bigger than yourself, then it must be done. Otherwise, you're a Karen. Both Hiro and Inuyashiki accept their demise pretty easily, knowing that it is for the greater good. Second part of the message is far more dark. Hiro and Inuyashiki are identical robots. The only difference between them is their attitude and morality. The fact that both of them had to die and self-destruct in order to save the world tells us that all the things they did, all the good deeds Inuyashiki did, and all the horror Hiro spread ultimately didn't matter. Your intentions don't matter. Your actions don't matter. Your beliefs don't matter. What's inside you doesn't matter. When it is all said and done, at the end of the day, we are all alone in this world, and we all die alone. Two completely different people who did completely different things, and their lives in exactly the same manner. This nihilistic attitude of the author is a bit depressing, but yet again realistic. These kinds of messages, which are hard to understand and even harder to behold, and yet are completely accurate and truthful, are exactly what all the modern stories and all the modern media lack. More than a century has passed since the first movie was ever made, and I honestly think that this medium, from which all shows as well as anime came, needs to finally grow up. Art like Inuyashiki is definitely an example of how to do this right. Modern Hollywood, on the other hand, which I will spit on as long as I live and breathe, needs to stop manufacturing products intended for people who have 2-digit IQ. Some art is made to be pretty. Some art is made for you to have fun with it. Other pieces of art, like Inuyashiki, are there to make you think. I truly wish there were more masterpieces like this in modern entertainment. If this was the case, our world would have been filled with many more Inuyashikis and much less heroes running around. That's it for Inuyashiki. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Follow us on social networks and check out other videos on the channel. That's it. See you next time. Bye bye.